Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be changing the oil on a 2009 Volvo S60 2.5T. The oil change procedures should be pretty much the same for any Volvo in this same time period with a 2.4 or 2.5 liter engine. To get started, there's a couple of things you're going to want to do. First, set the parking brake on your car. Second, you're going to want to jack the car up so that you can get up under the car. Always remember, don't just rely on a jack. Use a jack stand as an additional support, because if that jack lowers or falls off, you want to be protected. Second thing you want to do is get your supplies ready. We've got an oil catch bin. Two things you always want to remember is take the plug out of the center, because otherwise it'll just pull up. And release the pressure release, because when the oil flows in, the air's got to come out. If you don't take that off, then the oil sits here and it blubs up and it'll overflow the side eventually. Got to have your tools. There is a not a skid plate, it's a plastic air dam underneath the car. You're going to need a 10mm wrench or socket, preferably a socket, to remove the bolts that hold that in place. I can't remember, it's a 15 or a 17mm for the oil drain plug, so I've got both. And to remove the oil filter housing, it's really a good idea to get one of these. You can use one of the strap oil wrenches, but it's really hard to get up in there where this is. You can get these on Amazon for just a few bucks. And if you order the filters, you can get them out both at the same time within a couple of days. I do prefer to use the European filters. Now, these cars use a cartridge style oil filter where the filter is removed from the metal cartridge and you keep that cartridge. You just put a new filter in it, a new O-ring seal which comes with the filter, and then put the whole thing back in place. So we have also a garbage can to put some garbage in, some paper towels to wipe up any droplets, and since I'm on my driveway, I do have an old piece of cardboard there that I can slide up under as well. So let's get started. Alright, we are under the car, and if you look, you can see the plastic air dam. This helps direct the flow of air through the engine. You can see the little slots here that help the cooling. You have bolts here, here, and here. You got 3 in the front, 1 in the center, and a couple on the back as well. Those are 10mm, so we are going to start to remove those. And all we do is just remove those and set those off to the side. So I like to go to the outside, get the outside ones removed first, leave the middle one for the last, and then the whole thing just drops down. So I'll go ahead and get those removed, and then we'll come back to you guys. Okay, the oil drain plug is right here. This is your oil pan. And the oil drain plug is right here next to the little silver thing. It is a 17mm, so we'll go ahead and take that off. Position your oil drain plug. Let's loosen it up first. Get my hand up in here so I can... Oh, wait. Which way am I going? There we go. Have to get my orientation. Okay, I've got it loosened. So, position this. I have not used a new... Some people buy crush rings for the drain plug that you can put between the drain plug and the oil pan that will crush and form a seal. I have never used one for this car. It has never leaked. I've not needed one. It is up to you. If you prefer to use them, please go ahead and use them. It's not a bad thing to have. So we're going to let the oil drain, and then we'll get back to you when we remove the filter. Alrighty, the oil has pretty much all drained out, so we are putting the oil drain plug back in. And then we'll remove the oil filter. Let me get my wrench. This is a 17mm, by the way. Forgot to let you know that. We don't want to tighten it too much or strip out the threads.
And make sure we wipe off any little drips of oil. Okay, so now your oil filter is right here. So I'm going to have my photo assistant move just a little bit, and I'll reposition my oil drain underneath the oil filter. And this is where having this oil filter removal tool is really helpful, because it just pops right on. And this canister is going to be full of oil. And that's perfectly okay. Sometimes your oil filter will come off inside the cap here, and sometimes it'll stay stuck to the engine like it is right now. Just a little wiggle and it comes loose. Now you are going to get some dripping in some of these areas, so it's a good idea to have some paper towels ready. So now we're going to take this set up outside the car so we can replace the filter and the little rubber seal around this. Okay, we'll do that. I'll show you in just a moment. Okay, we have our new oil filter and rubber seal. This rubber seal goes along right here, this very bottom edge. Easiest way to remove this is to take your fingers, push against one spot, and work your way around, pushing it, and see how it bulges out right there? You can just take that and start rolling it up. Whoops, I let go. It gets slippery with these gloves on. Oop. I've never done this part with rubber gloves on, and it's really slippery. There we go. There we go. We can pull that seal off. And I do like, while I've got the rubber or the oil, I like to put some of that oil on here so it helps lubricate it. So I can start putting that back on. And it just kind of rolls right back down. And you see the groove right there at the bottom that this notches into, that just fits right inside that groove. See, and it seated itself firmly. Now I take my filter, and if you look, you'll see that it's the same on both ends, because this is omnidirectional. You can set it back in there either way. There's a centering portion here. You just set it right back down inside. And then we take this, pop it back up into position after we take some paper towels and wipe off the drips, and we just tighten it back down until it stops. When you start tightening that down, it is going to feel tight. Keep tight. That's that rubber seal making that seal. You'll know when it's time to stop because you'll feel this part bump up against it. Won't turn anymore. You don't have to tighten it down hard. At that point, it's done. This isn't one of those things you have to crank down and put a lot of torque on. It just needs to go until it hits that bump stop, and then you're done. So I'm going to get up, wipe off our mess, and pop this back on. I know the angles on this are going to be a little bit weird too. I don't have a lift, so this is what you're going to see when you're under the car though. So anyway, I'm starting to tighten this back on, and it's a good idea to start doing it by hand because you'll know if you've tried to cross thread it or anything. And see, as soon as I hit that bump stop, it just stopped moving. That's all I've got to do. There we go. Set that off to the side. I can pull this out of the way, and I'll go ahead and get my air dam put back in place here, and then we can put oil back in. Get right back to you. Here's a little tip to get the air dam in place. I'm just holding it right here. The center hole right here, just put your bolt up inside it, and you can see through the little slits here where your
spot is that it screws into, just screw that in and it'll kind of hold itself. Grab you another screw, get one of the ones up in the front, and just kind of get them started all the way around, and then you can tighten them from there. Oops. Just like that. I'll finish that up and then we'll get back to you when we put the oil in.
Alright, and now we get to add our oil in. So I'll remove the oil cap, get my funnel ready, and I forget what the manual says is the actual requirements for the amount of oil. I always use the dipstick to measure, and I find out that when I get these little oil change things here, it's like 5+1 they call it. I take about this and about half of a regular quart. So I use the dipstick to measure it. I'll fill it up to where I think it should be, start the engine, run it for 30 seconds, shut it off, and then give it a couple of minutes for the oil to settle back down to the drain pan, and then I'll use my dipstick to actually measure how much oil is so I know for a fact that it's correct. So let's get our oil put in here. And I always like to use a good high quality oil. In this particular change, I'm using a Valvoline high mileage full synthetic oil. I have used other brands. I have used synthetic mixtures. Oh, and I am spilling oil up the back here. Take your time putting the oil in, otherwise you wind up spilling it like I just did. Set that down off to the side. See, I got myself a nice little spill there. I'm usually pretty good about not doing that, but not today apparently. One of those mornings, I tell you. Okay, so let's finish wiping up our mess there. The nice thing is it makes it nice and shiny there. Okay, and I'll add in my extra half quart that I am pretty sure I'm going to need anyway. The nice thing about those old supposedly 5-quart things is there's a lot of extra room at the top of those. So I find that I can take my oil drain pan and put all of the oil into that one jug so that I can drop it off at the auto place. Yep, we got about half of that. So, put my oil cap back on, get everything out of the way, and then we'll start it up and see where the level is on the dipstick. Alright, we have run the car for a few seconds while the oil was draining back down to the oil pan. We took our drain pan and put all the oil in here, and you see it comes up to about right here. So it's a pretty tight fit, but all of it fits in that one jug. And now I can just take this jug to my auto parts store, drop it off nice and clean to them so that they can recycle it. So let's check our oil fill level. We're going to pull our dipstick out, wipe it off, pop it back in, pull it out, and you see I've got the oil right at the bottom of the mark there. So I want to add just a little bit more, about another 1/4 of a quart to get it up in the middle. And then we're all done. So I'm going to do that, and that's all there is to it. That is changing the oil in a 2009 Volvo S60 2.5T. If I can do it, you can do it. So give it a try. Don't forget to share this, give it a thumbs up, and click like. Thank you guys very much.